Hello, Fantasticos. I am going to read the rest of the chapter called A Disappointing Trip and possibly, depending on time, move on to the next chapter. So without further ado, let's get started. So when we left off, Peg was going home and the other girls had told her that when the weather was warm, the nurses took the girls outside to get some fresh air and just enjoy the outdoors. But Peg said since she was there, it's been too cold. So let's see what happens. It was a 2-hour ride. Seatbelts were not yet used in passenger cars, so there was nothing to help me stay upright. I had never realized how much I depended on my leg and back muscles to keep my balance in the car. The motion made me tilt from side to side, and I was unable to steady myself. When we went around a curve, I had to grasp the armrest and hang on to prevent myself from falling over sideways. My parents were not aware of my problem, and I didn't tell them. I wanted to be well enough to go home for good, and if I admitted how weak I was, we would all know that I wasn't well enough. By the time we got home, I was so tired from the effort of trying to stay upright that I could barely make it into my wheelchair. Our house had 2 front steps, and as I pushed my wheelchair up the sidewalk to the front door, the steps loomed in front of me, like Mount McKinney. How was I supposed to get inside of the house? Dad realized my predicament. He grabbed the handles of my chair and turned it around so I faced the street. Then, with great effort, he pulled me up the steps. I couldn't brace my feet against the footrest because I had so little strength in my legs. I gripped the arms of the wheelchair and hoped he wouldn't dump me. Silver balked when it was time to cross the threshold. Dad yanked mightily. Then a sudden jolt pinched me forward. I clutched the chair to keep from tumbling face first down the steps. Now, before I read any more, did you notice, and this isn't the first time that our author has done that, but she used personification when she was talking about her wheelchair. In fact, she also gave her wheelchair a name, which is attributing human characteristics to non-human things, like Silver is a wheelchair. And she said Silver balked, which is a fancy way of saying groaned or protested when it was time to cross the threshold. So I thought that was pretty cool. So please notice those things as we continue reading. It was great to see Grandpa, although when he saw the wheelchair, he looked so unhappy that I felt that I should apologize. BJ didn't care whether I could walk or not. He barked and ran in circles and slurped my hands. Mother had prepared all of my favorite foods, macaroni and cheese, green beans, Waldorf salad, and dessert, cream puffs. Mother's cream puffs were 6 inches across, filled with whipped cream and topped with homemade hot fudge sauce. I always requested them for birthdays and special company. I was unable to push my wheelchair on the carpeting. Dad had to push me into the dining room. The arms of my wheelchair were too high to fit under the table, so I had to be helped into a regular chair. Once there, I couldn't slide the chair forward, and by the time I was in place, I was too discouraged to eat much at all. The first floor in our house had a tiny half bath consisting of a toilet and sink. My wheelchair wouldn't even fit in. To get the chair close enough to the toilet, I had to leave the door open. There was no bar on the wall to hold on to, like there was at the sheltering arms, so I needed help to get off the toilet. The lack of privacy was so embarrassing. Since going upstairs was out of the question, I slept on a cot in the living room. I had longed to come home, but now that I was there, it wasn't much fun at all. Home wasn't the same if I couldn't sleep in my own bedroom or use the bathroom by myself. It just wasn't the same when I couldn't sit down at the table without help. I felt like a stranger in those familiar rooms. When it was time to go to sleep, I wished I had someone to sing with. In the morning, I practiced one of my piano lessons and discovered that my foot could no longer work could no longer work the sustain pedal. When BJ brought his rag toy to me, I wasn't even strong enough to play tug as I used to. My friend Karen called, but when the phone rang, I couldn't move my chair across the carpet to answer it. I had to wait for Grandpa to push me. At noon, it began to snow. Dad and Mother decided we should leave early in case the roads were icy. I didn't object. I was actually ready to return to the hospital. Trying to get along in the normal world was too hard right now. I still needed more help than my well-meaning family could provide. The ride was even more tiring this time because I was so weary from the effort and excitement of my time at home. Once again, I clung to the armrest and struggled to keep my balance in the back seat. Because of the snow, it took longer than usual to get back to Minneapolis. I grew more uncomfortable every minute. With relief and gladness, I returned to the welcoming embrace of the sheltering arms. Miss Ballard questioned me at length on Monday morning. When I confessed that I had been glad to come back, she smiled ruefully and said, "I was afraid of that, but I had to let you try." "Silver almost threw me," I said, "going up the steps to my house." Miss Ballard looked horrified and covered her ears with her hand. "I don't want to hear about it," she said. And that's the end of chapter 12. Now, kids, I have a meeting in a few minutes about language arts, and I don't have time right now to read chapter 13, The Great Accordion Concert, but fear not, this weekend is supposed to be very nice. And so what I'll do is I'll read at home, and who knows, maybe Frankie or Lola or Aggie or one of my cats will join me for the reading this weekend. I hope so. Okay, without further ado, I will leave you to it. I will leave you to have a great day. Okay, I'll see you next time, Fantasticos. Be well. Bye.